Hello everybody. Hopefully you can hear me alright. Hello mate in the corner. I'm not talking to you. Stop looking at me weird with your sunglasses on. Hopefully you can hear me alright. So I've pulled my microphone out by accident. Right. As the title says, GT Sport, Monza, how to Nissan it. In the DGT League, the Dynamic GT League, if you don't know what they are, check them out on Facebook and YouTube. The next championship starts in 6 days in this car, the Nissan Zanavi, which we have called the championship the Zanassin Trophy. Or should I say, I gave them the name and they've used it. I am not an admin. And what I want to do on this video is give a few tips about Monza, because this car can be a little bit tricky around Monza, so I want to just kind of show how I'm approaching it. I haven't done lots of practice. I did a bit earlier today, but I was nodding off as I was doing it. I kept falling asleep at the wheel, so I had to go and have a nap. But yeah, there's a few key things that I found out about this car around this track that could be the difference between being able to actually do a lap without going off the track or actually enjoying driving this car around this circuit. I know some people are struggling a little bit around this track, and let's face it, Monza is not the most difficult of racetracks. However, yes, it has got an awkward turn 1 and 2 and turn 4 and 5. They are the big problem areas, but I do know that people are struggling at the Lesmos and at Tascari and at the final corner. Now, in this car, you kind of have to look after the tyres a little bit. This car's got unbelievable grip, unbelievable aerodynamics, but if you overheat your tyres, you have no grip. So if you brake too late, or way too hard, or you skid, you slide, you go off, you're going to have to look after your tyres, because if they're dirty or overheated, you will have no grip. And for anyone on a wheel, you may also be able to notice those moments where you actually get onto the dirty part of the track, so where the marbles are. Okay, so now that I've mentioned about the overheating of the tyres, one of the things that I've been doing in my practice is trying to pinpoint the braking points for turn 1, turn 4, because they're the main ones, okay? And they are the heaviest braking zones. Once I've worked out the actual point I need to brake at, I've then tried different brake balancers, and I'll get onto that in a moment. So what I'm going to try and do on this particular lap is go through and mention about the braking points. At turn 1, with no cars in front of you, the last braking point is the 150 metre marker board. And even then, it's a little bit on edge. So if you're going beyond the 150 with no one in front of you, excuse me, good luck. And if you're going beyond it with cars in front of you, give up, retire. Okay, just after the 150, dirt patch on the right is the braking point. Straddle the sausages, do not touch them with your wheels. Gonna brake at the 50. It is only gentle. We're off the brakes early, and then we're gonna brake before the 50, so about 70 to 60 meters for the Lesmo 2. Ascari, I'm going to show you now the easiest way, the trouble-free way to deal with Ascari. Brake at the bridge, 4th gear, and straight through really easy. If you keep it in 4th gear, the car is extremely stable. But if you brake late, you ain't making the corner. Okay, for me, about 75. A late shift down to 3rd. And we're around the final corner. So the braking points are not difficult around this track. And that is number 1. Get your braking point pinpointed first. So again, 150 metres. Now you'll notice I got all squiggly, all sideways coming through the corner there. 2 reasons for that. 1, I got onto the sausage curb. Do not get on there if you can, and if you do, get your wheels straight as soon as possible. I want to mention the dirt patch again on the right. Straddle the sausage, straddle the sausage. Brake at the 50, it is only a gentle dab. Should be 3rd gear, sorry. Up to 5th, about 60 metres. And you notice by me doing it this way, I'm not running wide on the 2nd Lesmo there. You run wide on the 2nd Lesmo, chance of spinning. Don't take that risk. Why do you run wide? Because you brake too late. Now, using 4th gear like I have through Ascari there, it is not the fastest way, but it is the most stable. Okay, braking about 75. And around we go. Okay, I'm just going to come to a stop for a moment. As I mentioned, pinpointing your braking marker point is the most crucial part around this track. Now if you do have cars in front of you for turn 1 and turn 4 here, you're going to have to add anywhere from 25 to 50 metres onto your braking point. So be very, very careful in the braking zones. And if you have got a few cars in front of you and you see one braking at 175 metres and you're thinking, oh, he's braking early, are you sure? Because if he's got a car in front of him, he's probably braking at the right point. Now, being on the dirty side of the track at turn 1, again, you're going to have to brake before the 150, to be honest, to actually make the corner. But what I want to mention quickly is about tyre temperature, which is what I hinted at early on. In that if your tyres get too hot, you don't have the grip. Now, one of the things that I did earlier today was go through looking at what the brake balance was doing for me around this particular track. Now, what I found was if I had the brake balance to the rear, I actually had quite nice braking into turn 1. But when I got to turn 4, the next chicane, the car was very unstable and was sliding all over the place. And through the Lesmos, I was a little bit sideways, and then Ascari, a little less sideways, but it all seemed to be a little bit on edge. But I'd continue the lap, get down to turn 1 again, brake for turn 1, and it'd be alright. Okay, get to turn 4, and oh, it's a bit squiggly on the rear end. And it's because the rear tyres were getting overheated at turn 1 on the braking, alright? So because they were getting overheated into that corner, and it's a slow corner with a heavy traction zone after it, they were getting doubly overheated. And then when it came to the next chicane and I hit the brakes, the rear temperatures are too high, I haven't got the grip, the car's sliding all over the place, and if I then touch the sausage curbs, I'm off. So you might find that if you've got your brake balance to the rear, yes, okay, at turn 1 and perhaps the final corner, the braking's quite nice, but you might find it very unstable at the chicanes, at least the second chicane. What I then did was actually move it to the brake balance to the middle and tried it there, and again the braking was quite nice for turn 1. It was a bit better for the second chicane, but still as I was doing multiple laps, I kept finding a very unbalanced car in the second chicane, and you don't really want that. So what I've ended up doing is, with the brake balances, I tried moving it forward again. I'm just going to jump to the pits. I moved it forward again. Now normally in this car I would run 2 brake balance, right, to the front, but I was finding that around this track it wasn't really working for me, so I went to 3 to the front. Now what I found with that is, at turn 1 the braking is phenomenal, right, better than when it's to the rear, okay? But not only that, you don't overheat the rear tyres, and it's the rear where this car needs that stability, okay? So by having the brake balance to the front, when you bang the brakes on at turn 1, your front tyres are the ones taking the punishment, so when you're trying to come out of that chicane, your rear tyres are not overheated. Therefore you have more grip. Also, if your front tyres do overheat a little bit and give you a little bit of understeer, in this car that's not a bad thing, because this car's steering is absolutely fucking immense. Now, what I found that this did for me is it gave me stable braking into turns 1 and 2 here. It gives me a better exit, I can get the power on, but I will mention more about that in a few moments. As I'm working my way round to turn 4, I can pull my steering wheel out, use the DAS. Just mention as well, 150 metres, that it's a bit of a service road, isn't it? Yeah, so that service road there is what I'm sort of using as my latest braking point, right? So anyway, for this corner I can brake quite hard and get off the brakes before I actually turn in, and then any overheating that was being created on the front tyres because of the braking is not being caused by braking and turning. So I'm getting all my braking done and then off the brakes and allowing the car to turn. And what I'm then finding is, as I turn in, the car is much better balanced. So as I'm turning in, the car isn't trying to spin already. This is going to get noisy, hang on. Yeah, so the car isn't trying to spin on the way into the corner, and you don't want that. It also means that the rears don't get overheated, you get better traction on the exit. For the 2 Lesmos having the brake balance to the front, again, it's a dab of the brake and you're off them when you turn, so you're not braking and steering. So you're not overheating the front tyres, but you are also not overheating the rear tyres, which is what you do if you have the brake balance to the rear. And again, for Ascari, you can get all your braking done and then turn in. Okay, I am going to quickly mention about the first chicane, the exit of the first chicane. I know that is an area where a lot of people struggle. So, I mean, with a brake balance like this, I mean, obviously brake balance is personal preference, but if you have got it in the middle or to the rear, just bear in mind it could get a little unbalanced and a bit sideways on you. Okay, so braking at the 150, and you'll notice I'm not doing my last downshift until here, so I am actually allowing the car to continue slowing down through turn 1. So even though I'm braking at the 150, I am still slowing the car down through turn 1. I'm not on the throttle, I'm off the throttle, so that I can do my last downshift here, which will allow me to position my car for the corner. Okay, the exit of this corner is actually very, very simple, but a lot of people spin here, even me. And it tends to come from being too early on the throttle and being too full throttle too soon. This car will cope with going full throttle in first and second gear if it's already moving, if the steering wheel is straight. If the steering wheel is turned, it will spin. So what you need to do as you are coming through turn 2 is gently be on the throttle until you can get that steering off and floor it. So even though I've just sat there for a moment and I've got cold tyres, I was able to have the steering wheel straight and floor it in first gear. Now I've got wheel spin there, but because the steering wheel's straight, it's not spinning on me. So the exit of that first chicane is all down to your steering angle. And the same goes here. If you are not touching the gravel here, and on the exit of this corner you are spinning, you have too much steering angle applied. Okay, I'm going to go through a couple of sort of slightly annoying bits. So let me... Some people might find this annoying, but I'm going to go through it anyway. I'm going to go through why some things happen at certain corners around this track. So for example, turn 1. If you are not getting near turn 1's apex curb, you're braking too late and you're going too fast. Remember, 150 is the latest you want to be braking. So if you're not getting your car into this position every single lap, you're braking too late, okay? If you're running wide on the exit of this corner, it's because you're trying to go too quick between the two corners and trying to exit this corner too fast. As I've mentioned, you don't really want to be on the throttle at all between these two corners. It's a slowing down zone. If you spin here, it's because you've got steering applied while you're applying the throttle, or you've been all over the sausage curbs. But again, if you've been over those sausage curbs, straighten up the fucking wheel before you actually hit the throttle. Okay, Curva Grande, flat out. Okay, this next chicane. If you are not able to get your car in a position to straddle the first sausage, you are either cutting the corner massively or braking too late, right? There is no benefit to braking later than I am showing here and braking harder for longer, killing your tyres and making the car unbalanced, okay? If you brake at this point, every single lap, you can make the straddle of the sausage, okay? So if you are running wide here or going straight on here, you're braking way too late. You should be able to position yourself here every single lap. That is the target, that is the aim. If you're not doing that and you're anywhere over to the right of where I am now, you're braking too late, or you're not braking hard enough. If you're braking at the point I've mentioned and not making it, you're not braking enough. Okay, if you are spinning in these two corners, in this corner, through turn 1, if you get onto the orange sausage, sorry, not turn 1, the first part of the chicane, if you get onto the sausage curb, the car is going to become very unbalanced. So what do you need to do? Get that steering wheel straight as soon as possible before you apply the power. It can happen very, very quickly though, and sometimes you're just not going to be able to save it at all. So if it does start getting a bit unbalanced here, bear in mind it could be because your tyres are getting too hot, or you've hit the sausage curbs and you don't want to hit them, you want to straddle them. Okay. Through the second part of this, if you're running wide here, it's either because you're coming off the steering too soon, or you're trying to go too fast and the car's just understeering. Again though, if you haven't straddled the sausage curb like this, you are going to have to wait longer before you can get on the power, because you'll have a tighter corner. I'll try and show that in a moment if I can. So if you're running wide here, it tends to be about trying to go too quick, okay? And if you're spinning here without dipping a wheel in the gravel, you need to straighten your wheel up sooner. Okay, the Lesmos. Personally, these are two of my most favourite corners on all racetracks. They are brilliant corners. As I mentioned, brake at the 50. Now, if you are running wide at any point around this corner, you are either A, braking way too late, B, braking way too much when braking way too late, C, getting onto the throttle way too soon. You'll find with this corner that if you wait that little bit longer, you can go full throttle very early, okay? But if you go full throttle too soon, you're going to start understeering, coming off the power, running wide, shitting yourself, dipping a wheel in the gravel, and then smashing into the wall on the right. So for this corner, it all comes down to the 50-metre marker board here. Get that gentle dab of braking in, excuse me, down into third gear, and then just after the service road, or just at the service road, is where you want to be able to go full power in third gear, and you'll find that the car will just hug the corner. The later you brake for these two corners, the harder you make it for yourself. There is zero, nothing, finito, nothing to be gained at all from braking late at these two corners. Chances are you're going to end up in the gravel. Okay, so the same goes for this corner, except for you have to brake at about 60 metres. Now, what I tend to see through these two corners is people running wide a lot, and I often wonder, how are they doing that? There's a couple of reasons. One, if you're braking too late, right, you're braking very heavily, and you're probably going down to a lower gear, and then you're trying to get really aggressive on the throttle on the way out of the corner, and the car's running wide. You're making it very difficult for yourself. Or people are getting way too early on the power, and you don't really need to do that. These two corners are so simple when you break them down to, here's your braking point, be in third gear, regardless pretty much of what car you're in, and where's your throttle point. So the braking here is literally a dab, downshift to third, and then by the time you're here, you can get on the power. By the time you've got off this curb here, you'll know if you need to do a tiny little lift or not. But you should never really be running wide here. You run wide by pushing too hard on the way in. Okay, Ascari, another set of corners that I really like. Okay, if you're going straight on here, you're braking way too late. Bear in mind as well, if you've got cars in front of you, you're going to have to brake early. Now, what I see a lot of people tend to do here is either take too much of this particular curb, or they're too far over to the right. You do want to get onto the red, white and green curb here. You need to use it really. But don't turn in too aggressively, because if you turn into aggressively, by the time you got over this curb, you got a lot of steering angle on, you might spin. But there's a key moment through this particular set of corners, and it's where I was showing doing these corners in fourth gear is very stable. That kind of bypasses the key moment, and it is literally here. It is faster to do the left-hander we've just gone past in third gear and then accelerate all the way through these corners. However, you need a short shift to fourth, preferably before you get onto this curb. Now, you can use this curb, but if you do get on it, do not apply lots of steering. If you do, how can I explain? Okay, if you do, your front right tyre has zero grip, it's on AstroTurf. Your front left tyre has shitloads of grip because it's on tarmac. So where's your car going to go? It's going to fuck off over to the right, innit? Because the front left tyre is the bit with the grip, and so is the rear left tyre. The car's going to spin off to the right. So be very careful of applying too much steering angle here, and be very careful of clumping the black and yellow curbs. This kink is a piece of piss, but again, people tend to run wide on this part of the corner here, and I can tell you now, if you're running wide here, is because you've tried to go through the right-hander I've just shown you, that one, too fast. The faster you go through that right-hander, the wider you go through here. So you have to find that balance of speed through the left, the right, to give you the position to be fast on the exit of this corner. And you're positioning around about here. And again, if you do get wide there, straighten your wheels, straighten your steering. Okay, Parabolica. This is a corner where I do see so many people going deep in this corner. And this is a corner that for me, I do find it frustrating watching people mess up this corner, because it's not a difficult one. I mean, really, you should never really be seeing anybody going pretty much straight on here. It shouldn't happen. If you're going straight on here, you've missed your braking point by 100 meters, right? That's why it annoys me. But what I find so often is that people brake way too late for this corner. Excuse me. So whereas I would be in around about this position on the power now, coming out of the corner, right? Even though I'm still on my way into the corner, I'm actually already on the power making my way out of the corner. Other people are still trying to slow down, but where is their car wanting to go? Over here, because they braked too late. So their car wants to run wide, while people that are taking the corner properly are actually tucking in towards the apex and being on the power. And those that then run wide at the middle part of the corner are also going to be running wide around here. Anyway, now that I've frozen my tyres, let's go and do some laps. And this is where I go and absolutely fuck it up now, but now for this practice session that I'm in, I've actually got the tyre wear set to what the qualifying tyre wear, sorry, the fuel burn set to what the qualifying fuel burn will be in the DGT League. Something I will mention as well actually about this second chicane, a little bit like Ascari, if you are finding it extremely difficult to get through this corner, brake at the point that I'm telling you, stay in third, straddle, and you'll come out of the corner. Very stable, bit slow, okay? So people around those that are struggling a bit may have to be aware, car ahead may be a little bit slow, but you can do it in third gear and have the stability. It's not quicker in this car at the moment, because the harder you push to get that last tenth, the harder it is to make third gear work for you. Okay, see how we get on then. Oh, come off the brakes too soon. Okay, as always, I'm going to be looking for the white line going across the road, but also 200 metres, white line, 150. Now, it may look like I've slowed down way too much, which I have. But I was looking for that white line. I wasn't actually looking at the 150, so I couldn't remember if it was actually here on this game. But the white line is, I use it as kind of a reminder. you may wonder whether it's worth going up to 5th gear into the first Lesmo and the second Lesmo. The answer is yes. Short shift. Come off the steering as early as possible. Full throttle, only because the steering was straight. Ooh, turned in too soon. See, short shift before I got to the curb on the right. Braked a little earlier on that occasion because on the last lap it was getting a little bit unbalanced on the way in and I nearly wasn't able to straddle the sausage. So on this occasion I just braked a touch earlier, much quicker through the corner, because once I knew I was able to straddle the sausage I can commit more to the corners. Now with how I'm taking turns 1 and 2 there, I may actually be able to do it all in second gear. I've not tried yet. Losing a little time in that corner. Is that enough fuel to get me to turn 1? I'm going to try. I want to see if I can do turns 1 and 2 in second gear. Okay, the answer to that is yes. But, and this is the thing, right? You won't be able to do it in second gear, or even I won't be able to do it in second gear, if I didn't actually brake at the point I'm braking, slow down at the rate I'm slowing down, hit the apex like I need to at turn 1, and continue slowing down into turn 2, that would then allow me to use that second gear. If you're braking later and braking harder and having to slow down more, you're going to need first gear, because you're going to be missing the apex at turn 1, you've got a narrow, tighter corner, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So by braking in the way that I have, I've just learned, okay, I might be able to do it in second gear, so I will be trying that. And the benefit of being able to do it in second gear is that the traction will actually be much better in second gear than in first. But not only that, there isn't going to be any potential bouncing off the limiter in first gear, so it will save time, it will be quicker. However, we'll still need to make sure the steering wheel is straight, and need to make sure you don't go too slow, otherwise it's of no benefit. But what I would say is, to anyone that struggles a little bit around turns 1 and 2 here, always aim for using that first gear for turn 2, not turn 1, for turn 2. And then once you've got to the point where you're hitting your braking point every time, the apex every time, you're in the right position on the exit every time, then you may find, okay, I can carry enough speed, now first gear is not long enough for me. Now you can use second gear. But if you just jump straight to trying to use second gear, if you ain't got the braking point right, it ain't gonna work. Okay, let's see what we can do. Too slow, 62 mile an hour. May have been better off in first gear at that speed. Now I'm going to be down on the time anyway, because I'm carrying fuel. And from what I've seen, it is about 0.2 a sector for fuel, full fuel in qualifying compared to low fuel. Now you may wonder why I'm looking at using second gear through the first 2 corners, but in that corner where I've mentioned that using fourth is more balanced, I'm wanting to actually use third, is because it's for the rate of the acceleration. It accelerates faster in third than it does in fourth. Better line. much slower though. I was going to get on the throttle, but the rear was a little unstable, so I had to get off the throttle, straighten the wheel to get on the throttle. I think I dropped down to about 55 mile an hour. So this is where, for me, if I had the time to keep practicing this, or like when I was doing my F1 driving, I would keep practicing this and going, right, I'll do it so I can use second gear every single time. What I'm more likely going to do with this, whereas I'm going to take this as a much more relaxed approach, is my aim will be to take the corner in second gear. However, if I'm anything other than near perfect, I'll drop it down to first gear. And what that allows me to do then is it has that safety margin. I don't have to think about whether to do it or not, it'll become instinctive. So it could be that I feel the speed is a little low, so I'll use first gear to pick that speed up a little quicker. Missed the apex. Now interestingly, I missed the apex at turn 1. My speed through turn 2, 40 mile an hour, or in the 40s. So that's the difference. Getting it right, I'm in high 60s. Getting it wrong, missed the apex, 40s. Now I know that I said about overheating the tyres and being very careful of that. The little slide that I just had through Lesmo 1, that's not really going to hurt the tyres too much. Not as much as having the car sliding all over the place under braking, or if the car gets a little too sideways trying to drift through it. That will kill your tyres. Okay, got enough fuel for one more lap. Wasn't the best of entries into turn 1. I think I slowed down a little bit too much before the curve, before the apex. It's not going to be purple sector. Also, do not look at your sector times on sector 1. It appears at your braking point. So that 1/10 and a half that I lost, that is pretty much how much I would have lost in that first corner. Too deep on the way in. Lost some time there. Not bad. Wasn't great, I will admit that. Okay, what I'm going to try and do now, I'm going to go and do a few more laps because this is now sort of my practice. I want to try and mention, if I can, about... I'll just have a quick drink. I mentioned earlier on about, is it worth going up to 5th gear for both of the Lesmos? And I said at the time, yes. Well, the reason for it is, well, there's a few reasons actually. One, a lot of people are going to be changing gear a lot later in this car than you should be, and I'll show that in a moment. But also, if we approach the Lesmos in 4th gear, if we approach both Lesmos in 4th gear, we're only going to have one downshift to do, and that's not going to give us as much engine braking, which means there's more chance of us hitting the limiter in 3rd gear, but also we're actually going to have to brake a lot more. We're going to have to use the brake pedal. Whereas if we get it up into 5th gear, we can use the benefit of going down 2 gears and the engine braking that provides to then be able to hardly brake at all. And that works for both Lesmos. The benefit of hardly braking at all is you don't lose a lot of speed, you don't really damage the tyres, and the car is very balanced. So it's all about making things easier for yourself. Now, I mentioned about people are going to change gear in this car too late, and I'll show why as I'm on my way out the pits. Now, I'm going to sneeze, hang on. Yeah, so I haven't actually yet tested which is faster, but I know in a race when fuel comes into play, I know which will be more beneficial. Okay, on the screen at the bottom, regardless of what view you may use, apart from this one, it's not quite at the bottom, you've got your rev gauge. Okay, so on my screen at the moment, just above 0 mile an hour and 1 MT is the rev gauge. But for anyone that isn't using cockpit view, you might not see this. On my steering wheel in the car are some lights, and they tell you when is the right time to change gear, or at least the red one does. So the ideal shift point is above the number, not at the end of the rev range. So that's why people are going to be changing gear a lot later than they should be. In this car and in many others, to be honest. Now, admittedly, yes, you can use all of the rev range if you want. In some cars it can be faster. In this car it might be faster. What it will do though is burn fuel. Now, if you do need to burn fuel because you're carrying excess fuel in qualifying, you can abuse your limiters. It will burn fuel. It's bloody awful to do, but it will work. But if you actually look at the point that this tells me to shift, the engine note is very, very different, but it's very stable, very fuel efficient. Tyres are cold. But what you'll notice as well is that at certain points in corners, it'll actually want you to upshift way before you might think. So here, I'm already quite high in the revs in third. So it does want me to upshift very early, or what might seem very early. Now, at some point, I know I personally, in private, will try and find out which is faster. Because if it is quicker to use all of the rev range, then obviously in qualifying, that's what you'll want to do. In the race though, you could use the whole rev range if you wanted, but like I said, it is going to burn fuel. But anyway, if we go on the actual points it tells you to upshift, let's see if we should be in 5th gear here. So we should be in 5th gear anyway. I mean, it's possible those corners may take a 4th gear using this kind of rev range, but I haven't tried that yet. Okay, I'm going to show now what happens if you pretty much ignore everything that I've mentioned in the last, what, hour? However long it's been, yeah, hour. That hurt the tyres. Even though my tyre indicators didn't glow red, I could feel and hear how much pain that was causing the tyres. Okay, 110 metres, I ain't making the corner. Remember as well, if you've been off the track, you got dirty tyres, be careful. Brakes a touch late, all out of control. Okay, for these few laps I'm gonna not go up to 5th here. Now visually it might not look like anything is out of place through those 2 corners by using 4th, but the feel, the balance and the lap time will show otherwise. That was braking too late. Okay, I'm not going to go too extreme with my braking here. So even though I've stayed on the track, that was braking too late. I'm out of control, I'm hurting the tyres, and it's not quick. Right, I'm going to brake at the right point here, but I'm not going to go over the curb, right? Should have done it quicker, but if you don't straddle the sausage on the apex curb, or at least clip the apex curb, you tighten up turn 2 there. So I'm not braking much beyond my braking point. I'm not making the corner. And because I've had a couple of offs, listen to those tyres screeching everywhere. Right, now one thing I would say about Ascari is in this corner, in many ways it's better to get it wrong like that than it is to run wide. I'd rather see people get the braking point right and accidentally cut the corner than brake way too late and nail people off. That ain't stopping. Holy shit. Okay, interesting. I braked around about the same point as I did on the previous lap, maybe a touch later, but look how much further off I am from the road. And that's because of how much my tyres have been damaged over those few laps. Fucking unreal. Well, it is real, but... Oh, excuse me. Also, bear in mind, if when you're coming out of the pits here, be careful. Cold tyres, it's very easy to go straight on. Okay, I'm going to try and drive properly again. But what I'll do is here, I will use 4th gear. Now, I know that the revs can allow for it, but if you think about it, it's not actually any quicker. Then upshifting is going to save you a bit of fuel. But then when it comes to the downshifting, you're going to have so much better stability in the car. A little bit late on the brakes there, but tyres are still going to be cold. Okay, so I'm going to elongate the gears here. By that I mean I'm going to use as much of the rev range as I can. Car's unbalanced. And because I'm having to brake that little bit more, it's hurting the tyres that little bit more on the way into the corner. Now, okay, I've gained a bit of time there. Let's see if we can gain more time, which I think I can, doing it properly. You have to excuse my throat. From the looks of it, I hit about 60 mile an hour there. I say I was a little low. I didn't quite hit the apex right on turn 1. Okay, I actually slowed down too much there, so even though I'm on 2nd gear. So even though I braked a lot less, or at least I felt like I braked a lot less, I slowed down considerably more than when I stayed in 4th gear. So I know there's loads of time in that corner. Not all of it's half a second, because I was too busy talking through the 2nd les mode and lost most of that time there. Way too early and not enough. I lost 3/10 in that sector. 6/10. Holy, fuck 'em all in. Right, concentrate down. Too slow, way too low on the speed there. So much more stable on the mid and exit part of the corner. But I'm not going to try and use second gear at turn 2, not unless I get it absolutely nailed. Interestingly, making that decision that I wasn't going to use it meant I got turn 1's apex so much better because I was able to focus on that. Too much curb. So much more stable. Thing is, I think I lost some time over the chicane. Lost time there, ran a bit too deep. It may not have looked it, but honestly I did. That's my PB lap time. Okay, well at least that's just proved everything that I was saying. Just need to send that to the GGT chat. I'm just taking a picture of it. Okay. Fucking hell, I'm rolling backwards. Right. I don't think there's much else I can show you on there. What I will say though is, for a few of the guys that don't get to practice much, this is a car that, if you feel you need to, don't be afraid of putting traction control back on. Right? I would expect anyone that gets plenty of practice to not need it, because you don't. But if you don't get a lot of practice and you're finding you're spinning this car all over the fucking place, it might be worth helping yourself a bit until you get used to it. Apparently I've got messages on YouTube. Interesting, because it's not been notifying me of them again. Not that I've not had the page open. Oh, it's only fucking you, Steve. But yeah, odd that it's not sent me the notifications of them again. Weird that. Anyway, right. I've only got one more thing to do, which is nothing to do with Monza. Actually, I'm not going to do it in here. Oh, shit. I was pulled on the cable with my headset. Alright. Setting a new challenge for the DGT drivers. Nordschleifer. 12 noon. Go-kart. Now, I will give you some info here, right? In that the gear ratio that my kart is currently set on is too long. If I was racing, it'd be alright, because I'd be able to slipstream people. I think when I had a go at this earlier... Noisy bastard. When I had a go at this earlier, top speed was only 113. See how we get on with that. Now, lap time I've already set in this car, surprisingly, actually, is not the slowest I've done, but I think those three were attempting drifting. But 8:23.028 I've done, and that was one lap with a few crashes. Oh, and by the way, while I remember actually going in here, $546,221. Okay, BOP wasn't on, but that's not the point, right? Now with this, need where possible to avoid every fucking curve. Gonna top out. Okay, I think the gears need to be a touch longer. That's annoying. Okay. Go for 4 miles an hour. I need to stop gripping the wheel so tight. Hurting my hands. Annoying. Okay, got to be careful here. It actually handles the carousel quite nicely. It's the exit you have to watch out for. I have to be careful on the exit of that one as well. Hold that speed. Go on, under 8 minutes, under 8 minutes. Ah, fucking happy with that. Oh. I mean, sub eight, sub 8 minutes in many cars is a fucking good lap time. In a fucking go-kart. Well, I don't know what to say about that other than challenge set, guys. Challenge set. Anyway, that's going to be me done for tonight. Have a good one, everybody. And hopefully the video has been of use around Monza. Have a good one. See you later.